Welcome back, everybody, to a Little Less Fear podcast. I'd like to introduce Douglas Robbins. We're all looking for more connections, more love, more understanding, and to laugh along the way. Hallelujah. I agree with you right there. He's the author of several books, including Narican, The Cloaked Deception, a science fiction piece about the evolution of souls. I love that, the evolution of souls. And his most recent, Love in a Dying Town. It's a story about a single father raising his daughter in a dying factory town, showing her right from wrong, even as the world crumbles around them, even as parts of them do as well. As a writer and as an individual, he seeks deeper truths that are often hidden in plain sight or swept under society's dirty rug. He's also the host of the podcast, Den of Discussion. Welcome, Douglas Robbins, to a Little Less Fear podcast.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, a pleasure. So, hey, I'm a writer myself, and I love connecting with like-minded individuals. And I'm also really interested in your journey to what has brought you to where you are currently at today.
That is a very loaded question.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
And no journey is a straight line, right? It is.
Never.
We wish they were.
Well, that might be a little boring, actually, if it was.
That could be at times as well. But my journey, it's self-discovery. I think that's really what it comes back to, is the journey of self-discovery. And, you know, we often listen to the wrong voices.
Yeah.
Growing up, we're told, no, you can't be that. No, you can't think that. No, what you think is wrong. No, what you feel is wrong. And well, where does that leave us? That leaves us kind of boxed into a corner. And that's where suffering is. That's where a great deal of suffering is. And my goodness, man, I suffered. I struggled with mental health, depression. It's been a rough road at times because of the self-talk, that chattering mind, those negative self-beliefs that, they're relentless.
Oh, yeah.
It's that inner voice that, man, that is the worst, meanest critic you could possibly know. And it's so funny because if that was a friend or someone outside of you saying these horrific things, you would never be friends with this person, right? You'd be like, you're crazy.
Right? I know.
And you're mean. Go away.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and it's the way the mind and the ego are connected to the self, is that we trust this voice. And it's strange because you would think, oh, this is a trustworthy voice. It's my voice, but it's really not your voice.
Right.
It's mimicking the pain, the suffering, the belief system that you've created with thoughts that lead to emotion. But it is not your true voice. You observe it. You go, oh, my brain is saying this, therefore I am that. But you're observing it. You're not the observed, you're the observer.
Right.
And so there is that separation. Once you start getting awareness of, oh, this voice is leading me down the wrong road. It's leading me to isolation. It's leading me to being alone and hurt and not pursuing my passions because it's saying, oh, you'll get hurt out there, or you should be afraid of your higher self, because the brain tries to keep us where we are. The brain is not designed to keep us safe. So if it creates all of these lions at the gate, if you will, everything is a lion at the gate that could hurt you. Well, and if you listen to it, you go, well, I can't go outside. I can't do it, right? If you believe these things. But the observer says, well, okay, is that really true? If I go do this thing, is that going to happen? If I go to the post office, there's going to be a big line of 50 people and it's going to be stressful. And then you go to the post office and there's nobody there and you're in and out in 5 minutes. So
that happens so many times, huh?
Right. These things happen all the time, that you have a narrative that says you shouldn't do X or you should do Y. And then you do it or don't do it. And you're like, oh, that wasn't right. That narrative, even though it seemed like gospel because your brain is spitting it back at you, but it's often misleading you. And it's misleading you because of fears and pain and old beliefs. So I've always been on this journey, but when I was a child, I was just very tuned in to this other world. And, the world, or when you get indoctrinated into society, into ideology, into institutions that are not really designed to set you free, right? They're designed for you to adhere to them, not the other way around.
Exactly. Right.
And so when you get kind of stuck in these places that are antiquated and limited and dogmatic, well, where are you going to go? The only place you can go really is inward, and often protecting yourself, hiding that place away because it's not being honored, it's not being respected or encouraged. And so when I was a kid, I had an understanding about how life could and should be, that I knew that school was trying to pull something over on me as far as like this nationalism and believe this. But also in school, you learn society, what you're supposed to want, what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to want the house, you're supposed to want the kids, you're supposed to want the cars, you're supposed to want consumerism, become that good consumer. But that doesn't set you free.
No way. That actually makes it worse. Imprisons you even more.
It imprisons you, exactly. And so you become a prisoner in a mind-made prison. So all these thoughts, and you're just a child, so you're absorbing like a sponge because you don't know any better. Intellectually, you don't know any better. You might know better in your heart, but you don't know how to express that. And so I was in a great deal of pain for many years, trying to honor myself, but at the same time hurting, scared, not sure if I put myself out there, am I going to get hurt? Believing that vitriol in my head of I would be attacked or harmed or something bad would come of it because I'm stepping into my truth, into my power, into that light. And so this has been a tug of war for many, many years. It's still there to a point, but certainly less. That's something I'm addressing in Narican, the Cloaked Deception, that sort of battle of light and dark within us. And every day we make thousands of decisions. Am I going to get triggered and angry and blow up at this person, or am I going to let it go? So my journey I had started martial arts 20 plus years ago, and learned a lot about Zen and meditation and being present. And then again, some bad stuff happened, and went down a dark road, and was in a very dark place for a few years. And then about 10 years ago, I met my wife, and she's remarkable because she holds my feet to the fire to be the best self that I can be. And I think I do that for her. And, she demands my best. So when I'm moping around, she's like, no, that's not who you are. Show me the best of who you can be.
I love that.
And so I've really learned in recent years to strengthen this muscle, because it is a muscle like anything else. You have to work at it. You have to empower yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And my goodness, man. And I'm sure this, people always say, especially growing up, oh, you are what you eat. You are what you eat. Well, you are what you think.
Yeah.
You are what you think. You are what you put into your mind. So if you're putting a lot of garbage into your head all the time, watching horror movies and nothing but the news, and feeling powerless and just wasting your time on social media, you're not going to feel very empowered.
Right.
Because you're not doing empowered things. You're not giving yourself essentially nutritious thoughts.
So true. Yes.
So, that's kind of where I'm at, is just chipping away at that old paradigm, that old model of woe is me. I have a lot to say, but woe is me, I can't get there. I don't know, it's easy to have a pity party, right?
It sure is.
But it doesn't get you anywhere. It
Never.
Doesn't get you where you want to
Never.
go.
No.
So just commiserating, isn't the meaning of life, does not connect you to that higher self. And so I've been on this journey for a long time, and I think I'm really so much more protective over it now, because when I was a child, you don't know how to protect it, because you're thrust into all these situations and like I said, dogma, and no one is necessarily encouraging you to, oh, live your highest self, little Dougie.
Right. Kids never hear that.
You don't hear that. So that's sort of somewhat of the journey of where I've been and where I'm now. And you do have to be a fierce warrior.
Yes.
You do have to be a warrior and say, no, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And God bless you. And we're doing the podcast thing, and people are connecting all over the globe doing this, because that's where the change is. That's where the interconnectedness is. That's where the bond, the humanity is. And that's what shifts the world.
I totally agree with you, Doug. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That was incredible. Thank you. And very inspirational too.
Thank you, Lino.
Tell us about Narican. Why is it the Cloaked Deception, and what about evolution of souls?
Narican's
so was it, before you continue, I just curious, was it your life story that made you want to write this book?
Well, it's funny. A few months ago, I was speaking to my wife about this, and there's a lot of philosophy in Narican. There's a lot about manipulation of information, like you hear, fake news, but there's a very serious manipulation of information that we all have to sift through, right, and try to figure out what's what. But there's also that yearning, that beacon from within, calling us to our higher self, calling us to do better, calling us to stand tall, calling us to be that voice that we were supposed to be. And so a few months ago, I was speaking about my wife, and again, Narican's about the light and the dark, but there are entities on each side of that, otherworldly entities, trying to influence. So the story is that Earth is the lowest dimension for sentient beings.
Yeah.
And so there's a group that's trying to help evolve sentient beings or souls. And then there's another group that's trying to prevent it. And if you prevent it, you could submerge humanity into permanent darkness.
Wow.
And cut that evolution of souls, stop it from happening. And on a much more universal scale, submerge the universe and all these other entities into this as well. But a few months ago, it's so funny, I was talking to my wife about it. And I was like, oh, I think that part might be about me a little bit. She's like, Doug, I thought you knew the whole book was about you. I was like, oh, I guess you're right. But so I mean, it's just, there's a beacon, and that's part of what the dark forces or these toxic whispers are trying to get to. There's a beacon built within us. It's locked.
Mm-hmm.
That's always there, pulsating. Say, hey man, listen to me. Hey man, listen to me. Well, why are you doing that crap over there? You should be honoring yourself and moving in this direction. And so there's a beacon, and so that's what the darkness is trying to get to, is to, in a sense, figure out the code to crack that and prevent that.
Oh wow.
That beacon.
Wow.
Because if you didn't have the beacon, that's the guiding light in the darkness.
Yes.
If you didn't have that guiding light or that GPS or that map saying, hey, you're supposed to be X, if you didn't have that, you'd just be lost.
Yeah.
Wandering, guessing from thing to thing.
As you're saying this, Douglas, I'm feeling that's actually really, I feel like this is what's really actually happening to humanity. Like the soul suckers and the negativity and all that. You said the fake news and all these, just that the polarity is that's actually what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if you think about, and this, we could get into this or it could be another topic another day, but society isn't really designed for your best, right? It's not designed, it's not saying, hey, we need you to be your most evolved self, right? What society is saying is, business rules, humanity is second, the bottom line is first, corporations rule, we want you divided, and we're going to play games with information. I did a podcast recently about this, about the freedom of speech. Well, freedom of speech is a great ideal.
Sure.
But we must, and that's great to revere that ideal. But if we revere that ideal, we must also revere the speech that we are saying.
Absolutely.
And the speech that we're saying is often manipulative, deceptive, agenda-based, fear-based, trying to keep people divided. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Most people are good people, regardless if you have varying. Most people want integrity and kindness and support and warmth for their children, safety, etc. So the design of society is not, even school. You look at school. I feel like school is missing so many opportunities for kids to handle emotional abuse, EQ rather than just IQ, because it's the EQ. It's the EQ that is the guiding force in our lives. Not if you could do math or history about something. If you know about history, great. That's good information. And obviously history repeats itself if you don't know it.
Yeah.
But if you're a mess emotionally, when you become an adult, well, you're not going to be a very productive adult. So a lot of missed opportunities for kids to develop more individually as a society, and to get back to it, interdependence. Interdependence is the biggest key that is missing in our society and our culture.
I totally agree with that, Douglas. What do you think would need to change in order for us to have this interdependence? I know that's a loaded question as well, but what are your ideas?
It's actually not a loaded question. It's a very simple question, really, because if you think of anything like a sports team, interdependence, tribes, tribal communities, interdependence. You know your role, I know my role. We're here for the betterment of everyone.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just, hey, Sammy over there is going to get his and you're going to get screwed and that you're going to have to fight it. No. There was a fascinating it's actually a Michael Moore movie about the healthcare industry a few years ago. And it sort of was indirectly addressing racism. But in France, you have all these kids sharing like breakfast or lunch together, and they serve each other.
Oh, beautiful.
And so you had black kids, white kids, brown kids, green kids, whatever it was, taking care of each other.
Oh, I love it.
Right? And so if you understand that you're part of something, and if you understand that, hey, he's just a different color or different eye color, whatever it might be, different, well, you realize that kind of primal, like, don't trust something that you don't understand, or don't trust someone who's different. That kind of goes away, because now you've had, once again, experience telling you otherwise.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of civic duty. I really feel like that's a whole nother thing that's a disservice. We need to all be a part of the solution. So we're not part of the solution. There's for instance, garbage waste. It is insane how much garbage is created. It is
it's crazy.
This disposable society. Oh, you get it from the store, you get some takeout food, 2 seconds later you throw it out. Well, that thing that you used for 5 minutes is going to be in a landfill for hundreds of years.
Fuck.
And so if we all say, hey, we can all do better here, that's where the interdependence is, because we all do need each other, like you and I on this podcast, or someone else on the podcast. We all need each other to help lift each other, help get information out there. And that's how you move forward. But you don't move forward by letting the same old archetypes, the same old outdated modes of thinking and industry control. And like I said earlier, humanity needs to be number one, not business.
Oh yeah, we have it all wrong. That's for sure. Humanity needs to be number one, not business.
Yeah.
And that's why everything has gone to where it's at right now.
Right. Would you have all of this manipulation? Exxon has known for 50 years that climate change, is affected by oil and combustion and all that. So that's the thing. It's like, if we could just all honor these higher truths, I don't care who you are. You could be a CEO of whatever. Doesn't mean you're a bad guy or a bad lady. Like,
Yeah.
but I guarantee that person also has something calling them. But I will say one thing though.
Yeah.
We're speaking about spirituality a bit today, and you can also be closed off from that. Right.
Yeah.
Your ego can control and say that's crap and I need mine and I'm gonna screw this other guy, and I look at all the millions I have. All right. So it's easy to get disconnected from that, because you say, well, that I don't want to give up what I have here. I have all these great materials. Right. I don't want to give it up for some spiritual thing, So there are those people also that those are the dangerous ones, because all their care, those are the narcissists,
Yeah, I'll say. This is incredible. You're making me think. You're making me think, Douglas.
Don't do that.
I love it. Hey, Douglas, tell us about your other book that you have, The Love in a Dying Town. Tell us about that one. And what got you to write that?
Yeah, that was I don't know if you remember, a few years ago there was and still going on to this day, a water crisis in Flint, Michigan, where they didn't have clean water. Like, all the pipes were like rotted out, and so the water was all bad.
I didn't know about this, Douglas.
Something along those lines.
Wow.
So people couldn't get clean water. The whole plumbing infrastructure had corroded. So people were trying to buy water and filters and all these things, but nothing was working on a large scale.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, like, people still have to live there. You're still trying to raise a family. You're still having to show right from wrong, and you're still trying to love your children and give them the best that you can. So I just got this idea of people against the wall. I don't write about every people who are of mansions and celebrities, and it's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is the fringe people.
Yeah.
People you might not see, the factory workers, whomever it might be, the backbone, if you will.
Yeah.
And they don't have, it's very easy to, write a movie or a book that, oh, your rich cousin comes and saves the day. He gives you $10 million for your thing, and everything is great. Well, that's not how it works. What happens is, again, interdependence, people coming together because they need each other. They have a like-minded cause.
Especially in a situation like that. That's when interdependence really has to come in strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I started writing this story about this guy, the single father who has ambitions. He's a smart guy. He's a very capable guy, but he's trapped. He's trapped in this town. He's trapped in this job. He's got a young daughter. He's got a crazy ex-wife who's psychotic and an alcoholic. And he's trying to hold it together. And we've all been there trying to hold it together when it seems like everything is pulling us apart.
Totally.
And, it's about love, commitment, sacrifice. So I just wrote this. I think it's a very beautiful story about these. And it's sweet because of this bond that the father and the daughter share. And, I don't know if it's, this necessity that they have to rely on each other to thrive. And so that's why I wrote that. It's like, okay, there are people in these places. It's not glamorous.
Right.
But they're heroes.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it sounds incredible, Doug.
Thanks, Lee.
Thanks for sharing. So tell us about your podcast. How did you even get started into podcasting? What inspires you and what keeps you going there?
Well, I probably started for more self-interest more than anything. I'm a writer, and I figured, I'll have some writers on or some publishers, and we'll discuss writing in the industry, etc. And that was the initial idea about it. And then it just started morphing into things that I was interested in. The human condition, people overcoming challenges, again, getting at that stuff that's swept under the rug that people don't really want to discuss. And I've just had some remarkable guests. And again, it's such a gift to be able to speak with people that I wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
They're not in my world, they're not in my life, they're
Right.
not in my town, that I would never come across.
Exactly.
And I've had, it's been such a blessing. So that's really part of that higher self, is that
Mhm.
communication, bringing things into light, sharing it, dusting it off, and maybe presenting it to people. Because what are we all looking for, right? We're all
Yeah.
looking for deeper connections. We're all looking for joy and laughter and a little ease, right? Not
Yeah.
just to grind away making a buck.
Exactly.
So many people have learned that that's not really working.
Yeah, that's not the path to joy all the time. No way.
Right. It's nice to have stuff, of course. I have a four-wheeler and I have a motorcycle and, all that, like I love doing that, but that's not my identity. That enhances things, right? That gives me pleasure to go ride, but ownership is not what it's
Right.
about. And
But
I have a line that, whatever you own owns you as well.
oh my goodness, isn't that true? Right as my cat is staring at me right now. Like, yeah, that cat owns me, that's for sure. Right, Felix? Hey, Douglas, I'm curious if you could go back to your childhood self when you were suffering and in pain. If you could go back tonight, what
Yeah,
would you tell yourself knowing everything that you know now and where you are currently today?
I would say you're great. I would say you're great and you're loved, and trust yourself. Just hold on to what you love. And that's something that is an opening line in Narican. Something along the lines of, if you don't hold on to what you love, your enemies will surely strip it away.
Yes.
And that's true. And it's, we don't know what we're giving away sometimes, because we think we're giving it away to protect ourselves, or we're giving it away because it causes us pain. But the things we love, we must hold on dearly. But that little child deserved respect, deserved encouragement, deserved love. And was deserved just to like kind of get the pat on the butt, go do your thing, buddy. That's all any of us are looking for, from parents or from whoever, just a little encouragement saying, you're safe, go do your thing.
I love that, Douglas. You kind of made me tear up a bit. Thanks so much for being honest, and thanks so much for sharing your incredible story. I love writers. I just love how you all think and how you put things together, and how emotional you are, and how free you are to express your emotions. And in your own right, that actually leads to expansion and loving yourself more. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
being on A Little Less for Your podcast. How can our
thank you.
viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you?
You can find me at douglasrobinsauthor.com. My podcast is there, my list of my books. You can find me on Amazon. Just Douglas Robbins and type in whatever book, Love in a Dying Town or The Cloaked Deception. Also, if people want a very sweet story, if you go to my website, you sign up, you put your name or your email in you sign up for the email list, then you get a great story. It's one of my favorite, called Barbecue Dinner. But so
Sounds delicious.
that's where you can find, yeah, well, it's actually not. The dinner goes awry, but
Oh no.
yes. But say people can find me there, and if they want to sign up for my email list or whatever, just put their name on it, and off they go.
Douglas Robbins, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to A Little Less for Your podcast. Don't forget to also tune into his podcast. It's called Den of Discussion, that you can find on his website at douglasrobinsauthor.com, where you can also find all the information on his book. Thanks so much for being an incredible guest, Douglas. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It has. Thank you so much, Doug.